probably realize it's a pretty long drive from Austin and back. It's 10 hours on the road, and we're doing it, going back tonight. Now, I tell you that not to elicit any sympathy, but for you to understand that the reason why you take a 10-hour drive down here is because this part of the state is critically important. It is. And it need not be ignored. And in the future, I think it's going to take even a more critical path. But in the meantime, right in front of us, and the other reason I'm down here, is all of us have a charge that is so important to the future of our country. And it's simply put as this, and this is our mission. In my mind, job one for everybody in this room, job one for the Republican Party of Texas, is we have to replace the worst president of the United States in history. Now, there's only one person in America who is happy about the fact that we have the worst president in the history, and that's Jimmy Carter in Plains, Georgia. Isn't that true? Because up until this present president, people didn't think it could get any worse than Jimmy Carter. He left the country with 10.8% unemployment from his recession. That's what it peaked at in the spring of 1982. And in the fall of that election year, when Ronald Reagan beat him, and the inflation rate was 13.7%. U.S. T-bill rates were 20%. To give you an idea how bad that is, if we had 20% T-bill rates with our $14 trillion in debt, we'd be paying $2.8 trillion a year just in interest, which is more money than the entire collections of the United States are in 1 year. That's how bad it was. And that's the environment in which I grew up. And it's the reason I got involved, because as a high school student, I felt like maybe for the first time in my family's generations, I would not be as well off as my father. In fact, I had just kind of assumed I wouldn't be as well off. Because my background, you have to understand where I come from. Both of my grandfathers were born in Italy, and my father was born in Italy. And then he was later adopted by an American.
Italiano.
You got it. Munisteri is not even my blood name. It's an adopted name. Now, if you're ever going to have an adopted name, one that you have to spell 30 times a day is probably not the best. In fact, my real name is, and I usually don't tell this, my real family name is Patti, P-A-T-T-I, after the Gulf of Patti around Italy. My father was born Giuseppe Giorgio Patti. And my mother's father, Salvatore Grasso, came over here in the 20s because his uncles fought in the United States in World War I, and he decided to help escape fascism and start a new life here. And that example has meant so much to me, because my grandfather, whose Italian was his first language, spoke with a thick Italian accent till the day he died. But despite starting over again in another country, was able to put all three of his children, all girls, through college in the 1940s, at a time when most women didn't even go to college. And he did that without a college education. And he did it by selling insurance to the poor Italian neighborhoods in New Haven, Connecticut. And then my father's side, his father died when he was 3 years old. And he was adopted by a man who was a school teacher. My step-grandfather and my real grandmother were able to put all three of their children through college, including my father and uncle both went to Yale University. My father worked 6 jobs to make it through Yale University, and he ended up becoming the president of several large companies.